Hello and welcome to the LibraryData Collection Gaps demo video. So today I'm going to show you a little bit about how to use the Collection Gaps reports, what it looks like, and how you can get the data that you're most interested in seeing. So first off, here I am on the home page, and we can navigate to the Collection Gaps report going over here in the sidebar. So a Collection Gaps report can be hugely useful if you're trying to do collections development at your library. This report identifies gaps in your library's collection, and it returns a list of titles with no copies owned or on order at your home library based on their popularity at a comparison library aggregate. So the first order of business when you're developing a Collection Gaps report is to select your home library aggregate. Now this is the aggregate that you'd like to identify opportunities for. So you want to look at titles that aren't in your collection but are performing well elsewhere. So here we have my quick picks. These are libraries that I have looked for recently or often. So I think I'm going to pick the Beaches. This is the branch that I'd like to identify opportunities for. And then, as with the other LibraryData reports, you can click on the Add Edit Aggregate button, and this allows you both to sort by different filters like the aggregate type, the province, population density, branch focus. You could also select a specific library by navigating through the drop-down trees, or you can just search for the aggregate name up in this bar. So next up, you have the option to select your comparison library. And so this is the system or branch that you want to look at to see what's performing well there that you might want to acquire for your own branch. So it's also worth mentioning that you can do a similar thing if you go over here to the Compare to Sales tab. You can select a comparison retail market. So you could see how particular titles are performing in the retail sector and then possibly acquire those for your own library. Today though, I'm going to stick to libraries. So I want to see what titles are performing well in the all libraries but that we don't have at the Beaches. And then if I wanted to, you can select up to 5 additional aggregates and you can see data for the same titles at those different libraries. Next up, you have the option to select your reporting period. Right now it's set on current week, which is the default, but I could also do the last 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or a custom period. And if I wanted to select the date specifically, I can click in these boxes and then choose from the calendar. So next up, you have the option to limit the rows. So right now we're at the default, which is 100, but you can choose to see up to 50,000 rows, and this is going to allow you to get really deep into the data. Here you have the option to select how you would like to rank the titles that you're seeing at the comparison aggregate. So you could do by loans, holds, or the copies on order. So those are the basic search criteria, but if we scroll down here, you have some advanced options to filter by. One really great one is the available to order option. So if I toggle this on, that means that I'm only going to see titles that are currently available for me to order for my own library, and this can be really useful if you're doing collections development work. You also have the option to select a minimum or maximum number of loans, holds, and on-order copies. So let's say I only want to see titles that have a minimum of 10 loans but don't have over 1,000 holds. So I can really limit the results that way, and there's a lot of flexibility. Another option for filtering is to select only the subject that I'm interested in. So if I click on the Add Edit Subjects button, I see a BIZAC subject tree. So I can select specifically from in here. So let's say I only wanted to see art books. Check that, or you can search up here in this bar. I'm going to clear that though because I'd like to see everything. And you can do the same thing with languages. So now I'm going to run the report. Here we are at the results page. So you can see right at the top we have a little summary of the criteria that we use to generate this report. And scrolling down, we can see a list of titles. So we have first some bibliographic information, so the title, contributors, the publisher, the subject. And then when we scroll over, we get into the circulation data. So you'll notice that we're not seeing any data for these titles at our home aggregate, and this is to be expected because we're looking for titles that we don't have any copies of. If we keep scrolling over, we get into the data for the all libraries, which is our comparison aggregate. So you can see the loans, holds, renewals, and then some details about the copies owned, out, on order, and the branch's reporting. Right now we're sorting by the number of loans because that's what I selected on the previous page. But a really cool feature is that if I wanted to, I could click on any of these headers and that will resort the data for me. So let's say I wanted to see them sorted by the number of holds. And the titles have changed. They've reshuffled based on that new selection. Another way you can customize your columns in this view is to click on this button here. This will allow you to select which columns you want to see. So let's say I'm not interested in looking at the publisher or the subject. I can hit Apply Changes, and you'll notice that column has been removed from the bibliographic data. And if these were the columns that you thought were most useful, they're the ones that you want to see every time you run a collection gaps report, you could click Use Columns below for My Defaults, and that will save these columns, and so they'll appear every time you run one of these reports. As with the other reports on LibraryData, you have the option to download or email this report as an Excel or CSV file. And if you'd like to, you have the option to save the report to the My Reports section over here. This will mean that the report updates every week when the data gets updated, and it also gives you the option to email the report to other users. You can share it with them, or you can have an email set up to send to yourself every time the data is updated. So that's everything on the Compare to Library Collection Gaps report. It's a really great way to identify which titles are performing well at other libraries. And just to reiterate, you do have the option to do a compare to sales report if you wanted to run a comparison with the retail market. If you'd like to learn more about the different LibraryData reports, you can click on this help link here, which will redirect you to our help documentation. And you're also welcome to use the web form to contact us, or you can send us an email at librarydata@booknetcanada.ca, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.